we can record, we'll share the recording.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it will be on the in the
Website.
NFP, won't it?
Yeah.
So let's start sharing the screen again. So let's start with real basics of what is a hashtag, so everyone knows where we're at and we're on the same page. And this is the same, obviously, regardless of which platform you're on. So a hashtag is a combination of letters, numbers, and or emojis preceded by this symbol, the pound symbol. And they're used on social media to help those who are interested in a certain topic being able to find it when they search for a keyword or in particular a particular hashtag. So it can help draw attentions to your posts and encourage more interaction in terms of the people that you are hoping to attract and interact with. And we'll dive much deeper into that a bit later on. So here are some basics. When using a phrase as a hashtag, you spell it out without spaces. So when you're using a hashtag, so say using hashtags, you don't separate the words, you put them together. So it becomes one word, a bit like in the example here. It can include numbers, but not symbols. So it can't use like an exclamation mark or a comma, but it can, ironically, then use emojis. So you kind of think, okay. So for some reason, symbols and punctuation don't work. It breaks the hashtag, but emojis will work. And the hashtag can be placed in terms of your social media post and caption. It can be at the beginning, during your post, or at the end of your caption. And different platforms have different kind of etiquettes. I wouldn't say rules, but I would say etiquettes on how they perhaps place them in a caption, and we'll go through some examples. But as you're sort of squishing the words together, a little word of warning about being careful when you're choosing a hashtag, how perhaps certain words look together. So there have been some quite famous mistakes, shall we say, in using hashtags. So Susan's album party, for example, if you read that quite quickly together, it turns out quite rude. And again, the Chester Literary Festival shortening here isn't particularly good by Dan Walker. And perhaps Amazon actually played on it a bit more clever when they launched the sort of newer version of Top Gear on Amazon and played on the fact that you can perhaps bring together some words in a hashtag that means something else when you look at it. So you do have to think about, if you're putting the words together, what it actually looks like, so it's not problematic for you. So why should we use them then? Well, the main thing about hashtags is they help group together like-minded conversations. Think of it as kind of a category or a topic of conversation, and it makes it easier for sorting posts so that people can find what they're looking for and the connections that they're looking to make on social media, and following people that and content that interests them. And when you use hashtags, your posts then become searchable by anyone on that platform. And many people will search and even follow specific hashtags. And on some platforms, you can definitely follow a set hashtag. So by using a hashtag, you're sort of alerting to people who are trying to follow that particular interest, and they might ideally, of course, be your ideal customer. So it increases your chances of being found on any platform. So people basically, at the end of the day, you use hashtags to be found by new people. So if you're looking to grow your account and you're looking to increase brand awareness and increase your following, then hashtags are going to help. So where can you use them? Where are they actually going to work? Well, they originated, this is the first tweet back in 2007 on Twitter. So they started out on Twitter, and they've really quickly become adopted by most social media platforms. And on most social media platforms, they're not only searchable, but like here, you can see it becomes a clickable link. So what that means is if I clicked on this in Twitter, I would then see all other recent popular posts with the hashtag Barcamp. So if someone is interested in a particular topic, they can then look at and discover posts using that hashtag. So different platforms do have different etiquettes and different strategies, such as how many hashtags to use on each platform and how many you can fit in. So what we'll do is we'll look at different platforms, first of all, and look at perhaps how many hashtags is etiquette, a guideline to use per platform. So Twitter, where it all originated, of course, Twitter originally had much shorter captions. And so the etiquette has kind of continued where using up to 2 hashtags can actually double your engagement. But using more than 2 hashtags can actually decrease your engagement because you're kind of flooding your caption where you've got such a limited character count with hashtags, and it becomes harder to read, as the video will show later. So your caption is limited in terms of characters, so use it wisely. Pick 1 or 2 hashtags on Twitter that will then become both searchable and clickable within Twitter. So Twitter uses hashtags in quite, a very good way. The platform makes it very easy to find people, makes it clickable, makes it searchable. So let's look at the different platforms and see how they use them in different ways. LinkedIn now has adopted hashtags. And again, they are searchable and they are clickable. So you can find more posts relating where that hashtag has been used. So if you use them in your company's LinkedIn post, it can actually help people to find your content better. Although there are no limits really in terms of how much caption space you've got to how many hashtags you can use in LinkedIn, it's kind of recommended to keep it between 2 or 3, mostly because it's such a professional network, and it kind of looks a bit spammy if you're using lots and lots and lots and looks a bit needy. So it's kind of the etiquette is to use 2 or 3 without it starting to look a bit unprofessional, shall we say. Now, Facebook, again, you can use hashtags. They are searchable and clickable. And it can help, again, your content gain visibility, attract new community members for your brand and increase your overall reach. Facebook's a bit strange because although hashtags are usable and are adopted on Facebook, if you're searching for a certain keyword, whether it's a hashtag or not, it will still come up in that search. So they do kind of work because they've adopted them because of other platforms using them. They work in the same way, but to some extent, Facebook search is quite good in terms of finding relevant posts without the need for hashtags. But of course, if you've got an audience that are quite young and are used to using hashtags, then they might be searching by a hashtag. And then if you're using the hashtag, you're more likely to get found. And I'm very aware I'm saying hashtag a lot, but then we're talking about hashtags. So it can help you obviously find more people. Of course, the algorithm on Facebook is more tricky as it is. I found that it's particularly helpful if you're running a group, that you can then sort posts within that group by those topics. So if you're discussing lots of different threads, if you like, within a group, teaching people or using certain hashtags within that group helps make that discussion much easier within the group, because you can then search for a hashtag within the group. So I think they're most useful on Facebook in groups, but it depends on your strategy and your audience. Sometimes I personally don't use hashtags on Facebook because I think my target market who are on Facebook generally won't search by a hashtag. They're more like to search by just a keyword. Sometimes I've been experimenting to see if adding a hashtag makes a difference, and that's the thing that you've got to do really, is to see what works for you. But again, if you use more than 1 to 2 on Facebook, it kind of looks a bit spammy, and it kind of looks like you just copied and pasted or republished, most commonly from Instagram, which then makes people think, well, you're not actually here, you're actually posting on Instagram and then just shoving your content over here. So that's why limiting the hashtags on Facebook again can be beneficial. Now, Instagram, a lot of you have mentioned, allows up to 30 hashtags, and they are searchable, followable, and clickable. So for example, you can follow certain hashtags on Instagram, and then in your feed, the certain posts, the very popular posts, will come up from people that you don't follow, and you can then decide whether to interact with it or even follow them. So that, again, Instagram can be a very good way then, if you're using hashtags, to actually get new followers. Now, because Instagram posts allow you to share up to 30 hashtags, if your goal is to get more exposure and grow your brand, then I would say use all 30 if you can. I wouldn't put them at the top of the caption, I'd put them towards the bottom of the caption, because that's the kind of etiquette for Instagram, especially when you've got 30 of them. There used to be a kind of a science where like 11 and 12 used to be the maximum engagement, but the trend is kind of leaning towards, well, if you're using it for exposure, then use all 30. If you can come up with 30 different hashtags, of course, for your post that is relevant. Feeds and reels. So feeds, you can have 30 hashtags. The feeds, you can have 30 hashtags. Reels, you can have 30 hashtags. Stories, you can have up to 10, including 1 clickable one. So that's the one that kind of really counts. I mean, if you're putting 10 on a story, you're going to have to make them pretty small to not clutter up the story itself. So I would say with Instagram, if you're on Instagram and you're looking to be found, then use all 30. Some people don't need to use hashtags if they're A, not looking for more followers, or B, they're such a massive brand anyway that they're getting exposure from people, the natural algorithm. TikTok, I'll mention, because the constraint on TikTok's actual caption limit is only 100 characters, you've got to then include them in that 100 characters. So you can use really 1 to 5, and I would say a short caption with 2 hashtags is a good balance. They're searchable, but they're not clickable. Now, Pinterest is an interesting one. Pinterest apparently kind of changes its mind on whether it likes hashtags or not. So they are searchable on Pinterest. But again, a bit like Facebook, its search feature doesn't differentiate when searching for hashtags or keywords. So again, if your audience are younger, they're the younger generation who are used to hashtags generally in their everyday and might type in the hashtag as a search term rather than just a generic phrase or a keyword, then that might rise above the posts that use just that phrase or keyword without the hashtags. So you have to think about, again, your audience and how used are they to kind of using a hashtag as a search method. So hashtag placements on these different ones. So as I mentioned, depending on the platform, each platform's got its kind of best practice. That's not hard, fast rules. You can use them how you like. But because of different caption constraints, then where you can place them and how many you can use differs. So with platforms like Twitter, like this one here, hashtags are used like 1 to 2 of the times, and the caption constraint is limited. You've only got so much text you can write. It's not uncommon or problematic to add them into the caption itself, like the New Forest Mark one here, where it kind of makes sense, where you want to highlight keywords and use those hashtags, but because you haven't got the space to add them all at the bottom, you can actually use them in the caption itself. So Welcome Stores at Brockenhurst, an award-winning shop, join the New Forest Mark. So they're using keywords that are relevant, that people will search for. These are all clickable and useful, relevant keywords for this particular tweet. Where you've got longer form posts like Facebook and Instagram, where you've got much longer space to write a caption, or again on LinkedIn, I would recommend with etiquette that you put the hashtags at the bottom of the end of the caption to make it easier for the caption to be read, because the hashtags are still going to work wherever you place them. And because of course they are clickable as well. So this is an example where you have the caption first and then the hashtags underneath. Because the hashtags are clickable, which is great for getting found, but if they're then clicking on hashtags within your caption, they're moving away from interacting with you because they're going to go and find other things. So where you've got the space, have it at the bottom. Otherwise, the caption becomes a bit disjointed. So I've got a little short video clip, which I'll play. Think of it like having a conversation in real life. If you've got hashtags scattered between the conversation, it makes the conversation a bit awkward. So I'll play this. Oh, can you hear? You can't hear. Oh.
Hey, Justin, what's up? Not much, Jimmy. Hashtag chilling. What's up with you? We're busy working. Hashtag rise and grind. Hashtag is it Friday yet? Hey, check it out. I brought you some cookies. Hashtag homemade. Hashtag oatmeal raisin. Hashtag show me the cookie. Sweet. Hashtag don't mind if I don't. Very good. Hashtag getting my cookie on. Hashtag I'm the real cookie monster. Hashtag no. Delicious, right? Hashtag I did it all for the cookie. Hashtag LOL.
So you get the idea. If you've got a load of hashtags scattered in your caption, it makes it stunt the actual conversation and stop the person reading it for what the caption's actually meant to be, which is why if you put the hashtags at the bottom, it makes your caption much easier to read. So in terms of then strategy and which hashtags to use, you've got to think of them like a funnel. So for instance, marketing, hashtag marketing, for me would be an incredibly broad hashtag to use. I would attract lots of posts and lots of people will use hashtags using perhaps marketing. But in terms of the conversation or the post that I'm having and the caption I've got, I could narrow that down and make it more niche and make it more relevant. So maybe something like hashtag digital marketing would be much better for me to use, because I do more digital marketing than just general marketing and marketing strategy. So that's a short example that shows how if you use a hashtag that's more specific, you're going to then get a much more targeted reach. And the audience searching for these hashtags are also trying to narrow it down to something specific. So we're more likely then to reach the right people. So they're a really good way of categorizing someone, but the more you can niche your hashtags, the better and the more relevant people are likely to find you. So there's kind of like a rule where you can use a lot of hashtags like Instagram. It's a good sort of practice to use a mix of really niched hashtags and then a few popular ones. So if I've got Twitter or LinkedIn where I've got to minimize the amount of hashtags I'm using, I'll try to use more niche ones like hashtag digital marketing or hashtag social media workshop or hashtag I can't think off the top of my head. Using more niche ones are going to be a better strategy for those posts. When I've then got Instagram where I can use 30, having a good mix where I'm less likely perhaps to compete on the hashtag marketing, there's still a chance that I might get seen, but I don't want to use all big hashtags because I'm going to be lesser down on the algorithm for them. So then by using more niche ones is really important. So if you're trying to think, well, especially if you're on Instagram, how the heck do I come up with 30 hashtags, and ideally different for every post, which I'll come on to, then where do I start trying to think of hashtags? So first thing you can do is think about hashtag types. So there are some common hashtag categories you can consider when thinking about using the hashtags in any post. So there are product or service hashtags. So companies will use product hashtags for posts related to their product and service offerings. So for example, this will usually be quite general, such as hashtag hair salon or hashtag knitwear. So that is quite general and not very niche. But then industry niche hashtags might be indicating specific work you do and narrow it down a bit more. So going back to those examples, you might say, rather than hashtag hair salon, you might say hashtag black hair salon, which really narrows down what you do in your industry, or hashtag handmade knits rather than hashtag knitwear. If you're on Instagram, you could use a combination of both, and that's still relevant to that same post. Branded hashtags you can use to help yourself build a community. So building a brand or a slogan around your particular business. So for example, Nike would be hashtag just do it. New Forest Mark use hashtag New Forest Mark. So you can use branded hashtags to help you. If you're going to use branded hashtags, then make sure you tell people what it is that you want them to use. Campaign hashtags could be used. So if you're running a sponsored ad, you can use a unique hashtag for you to be able to keep track of activity relating to that campaign. So thinking more of Vicky here, for example, who runs, does a lot of marketing. If she wants to see how a particular client's adverts or the post that she's creating for them, she could use a specific hashtag so that she can easily monitor that. And then you can also use user-generated hashtags where you can tell your customers to use them for a specific product or influencers. So you can visit the hashtag to see unsponsored, unfiltered photos from your users. And then, of course, you can use event or conference hashtags. So a good example is hashtag NF Biz Awards, where you can then follow all the conversation that's going on around a particular event. And if, again, you educate people and tell people to use that particular hashtag when sharing their comments or sharing their photos, it's much easier for you to join in with that same conversation. And then there might be cultural movement hashtags, such as hashtag Black Lives Matter, where it may be relevant for your company to make a stance clear that you can do so. And then, of course, you can narrow down hashtags by location as well, particularly where some of you are local businesses and looking at working with the local area. So in the example of hair salon, again, you would use hashtag hair salon Lymington or hashtag New Forest Bakery, so that it narrows it down to your particular area. So you can make it more general by having hashtag hair salon and then hashtag hair salon Lymington, for example. So depending on which platform you're on, you might use a mix. And then phrase hashtags are kind of like almost captions, so such as hashtag write every day or hashtag be brave. So you can hint at what you do while in practice inspiring your users. And then daily hashtags, you'll find a plethora of these in use, which you can utilize to perhaps get more exposure depending on what you do, such as hashtag workout Wednesday or hashtag wellbeing Wednesday or motivation Monday or throwback Thursday. So you can carry on with those. And again, acronym hashtags are almost like shortened versions, particularly if you're with the younger generation. Rather than using throwback Thursday, you'd use TBT, because of course they're all about shortening. So if you're trying to access that younger generation, you might use acronyms instead. Just check what all of these mean before you go and use them. And then there are holiday hashtags. So there is a hashtag for every day of the year. And you can, I think is it days of the year? If you go to type in Google days of the year, there is literally a holiday for every, I think I saw that tomorrow is hugging day or something. And if if you're stuck for content, sometimes having a look at what's coming up in the month of international days, you might be able to use it in your brand. Now, I did mention briefly, particularly this is now on Instagram, but generally on all social media networks, consistent, it seems like a lot, doesn't it? You go to the trouble of working out lots of different hashtags that are going to work for your brand, see what they look like on the different platforms, have a look and see what other people are using, and then I'm then going to tell you, so you've done all that research, but don't use the same ones all the time. Don't use the same ones post to post. You're like, seriously, how long did it take me to come up with 30 hashtags? Now you're telling me to use them differently on every on every post. Not every post, but don't use the same ones all the time. And the reason is because it's a bit like keyword stuffing on a website. You can be penalized for the algorithms. The algorithms think you're being a bit spammy or that you're a bot. So like if I used hashtag social media on every Instagram post I put out, that's going to hinder rather than help me, even if all of them are about social media. So try and have perhaps a set of hashtags that you rotate, but they still have to be highly relevant to that specific post, even if the posts are similar. So a good example is like with food and spaghetti. It might not be, you can have hashtag spaghetti, hashtag pasta, but don't use the hashtag linguine because it isn't linguine. So thinking about how you can perhaps have a collection. And the best thing to do is to create your own library based on the types of content you will normally post. So having a mix of about 40 to 60 hashtags that you can use depending on the sort of content you use is going to help in terms of you not having to think about it every time you post. And I'll give you a tip in a moment on how to create kind of your library for easy access and to keep them organized as well. So how do you find hashtags? You can obviously search and see what's being used a lot on the different platforms. One that's quite useful is on Instagram on the mobile device, on the app. If you're on Instagram, even if you don't use it a lot yourself for your business, it's quite a good suggestive tool when you're trying to look at different hashtags. So like about social media, what can you use? If you put in to the search function a specific hashtag, it will then come up with a series of related hashtags that you could use, which then kind of inspire you in terms of what might be relevant for you to use. So here the hashtag was sweater season, and then it's suggesting fall sweater, cozy sweater, fall wardrobe. And of course, you can either use the American spelling or the English spelling or both if your markets are in both continents. So you've got some suggestions, and not all of them are going to be right for your brand. But again, if you're struggling for what to use, it's a good tool to use. And the other thing you can, of course, do is go and stalk your competitors and fellow business owners and see what they're using, or even the bigger brands in your industry, what are they using? And some you'll find won't use any because they're so big they don't need to, but some you'll find do, and it can you can click on them to see who's using them, how well they're being used. And particularly on Instagram, it will tell you how many posts that hashtag is actually in. So you'll be able to see how popular certain hashtags are, so that you can get a good mix of more niche ones and really popular ones. And then, of course, you could use, there are a couple of tools, particularly for Instagram, that are third-party tools that then have hashtag suggestions built into them. So two that I can mention are Later, which is actually you can post more than just Instagram, and Preview, if you're on Instagram, will have hashtags suggestions built into their kind of tool software. And of course, what you can do is have a look at your previous posts and see how well certain hashtags have performed, and which ones are perhaps getting you noticed and which ones aren't, so that you can have a bit of both. Now, how the heck, if you've been down, you've done your research, do you then kind of store them so that you're not having to write them out every time, or you're not having to think of them every time you come to post? Even if you're not scheduling, where can you quickly grab them to do them? Now, I quite often use, well, I sometimes use Text Expander, but a more approachable way and quite a quick way is to use your Notes app on your phone. So this is the Apple version, but there will be probably a free version on Android as well. And you can literally just start collecting a note with hashtags in. And as you put them in, you can either put them into categories. So trying to think now, so I'm going to take Claire, because Claire's at the top of my screen. She's New Forest Mark. So she might have a section on local food produce, or she might have a section on the New Forest surrounding area, so natural things, or she might have something on makers, so that would perhaps link. Then she might have a category on like wood makers and wood crafters and things like that, or she might have a drinks category, an alcoholic drinks category and a non-alcoholic drinks category, and put in some hashtags relevant to that. And if you've got kind of separate lists based on the different types of posts you then create, you can then, I'm not saying you copy and paste the whole lot in, you can pick and choose a few hashtags from each section that are relevant each time, rather than having to remember them or to search for new ones for each post. And it also gives you the time to check out what kind of content is then already being posted for those hashtags, because you're then not going to end up with an error where you've got a slightly dodgy hashtag, or a hashtag that's perhaps being used in a dodgy way by people. So it's good checking before you use a hashtag how it's being used on that platform, and does it fit with how you want your brand to be seen. Just remember that every hashtag you use should definitely fit with the content you're posting, and ideally should not be repetitive. So don't copy and paste your whole list in each time. So I've got one extra tip before any questions, really. Just if you're cross-posting, like I briefly mentioned, or even scheduling and repurposing content for different platforms, be mindful of how many hashtags are on the original post that you then cross-post to the other platform. Because of the different caption lengths, because of the different etiquettes, it's sometimes worth going in and copying and pasting and editing before publishing, because of how it may look. So that's a whistle-stop tour of hashtags on different platforms. I'm sure we've got questions. So if I stop sharing a minute, we can then have questions.
I'll start the ball rolling if that's all right. You mentioned evaluating the effectiveness of hashtags. Could you give us some examples of how you do that whilst you're in your platforms?
So different platforms have different insights, and some of them will allow you to search by hashtag. So quite often, like if you go into Instagram and look at the insights, you can look at the different ways that so like I looked at a post yesterday, it showed me that that post had been found by hashtag. 3 people had found it by hashtags, and then you can go and have a look at the hashtags that's been used to see if that worked well. So different, if you go into the natural analytics of each platform, generally they'll give you some insights. And if it's not giving you the insight you want, and that is really important to you, you might find that you need to use a third-party tool to schedule your content that then you can use to report how those hashtags are working.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Claire?
This might be a stupid question.
No stupid question.
How would you use hashtags differently from at mentions?
So at mentions are, you're tagging a person in that post, and particularly if you use that at the beginning, then that will only be seen by that person quite often in Twitter, that is. But at mentions will then mention a specific person. They'll then see that post, and you're perhaps sharing to your audience that person or that company handle, whereas a hashtag is for you to be found more by people, if that makes sense, and it's not narrowing down, whereas tags, you're narrowing down who you're talking about and who you're mentioning, and potentially exposing them to your audience the other way around, if that makes sense.
I'm just thinking in terms of advice from ARC members, when we're asking them to include New Forest Mark in their social, we need to encourage them to use hashtag New Forest Mark as opposed to
It's easier for you to search by that. You will always see the post when you're tagged. But if there are other customers that are searching by that hashtag, they can see it. Of course, that doesn't stop non-New Forest Mark members using the hashtag New Forest Mark to try and get on the back of the success that might have. But
any exposure is good exposure.
Exactly. So it's much easier to search by a hashtag in all the platforms. You can just put that in and then see. So even if they haven't mentioned you, you can see it straight away. And I can do that. Anyone here can go and do that and see what the conversation is about hashtag New Forest Mark.
Yeah, I got a question. How often we should put the post on, let's say, Instagram or LinkedIn? Obviously, they are two completely different platforms.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing not necessarily the same post should be on Instagram and vice versa on LinkedIn. Weekly, often?
So, depends on how much time you've got.
Yeah, that's the tricky.
I would say on Instagram, because a lot of people will say you need to post daily, but you don't need to post daily, because then you end up actually competing against your own algorithm and keeping up with your own conversation. I personally will say to myself, I'm going to try and do 3 posts a week, feed posts on Instagram, and I will try and do at least 1 post a week on LinkedIn, and where I've got more to talk about, I might do more on LinkedIn. Depends on when your target market are. Focus on being consistent and post it. So if you can only post once a week on LinkedIn, try and pick a day where you're always going to post, so that people know to expect you and look for you and have that conversation with you.
So always try, for example, the same day using, so that people will remind that will expect me to do on Wednesday to see something new what's come up.
That's right. So that people know to look for you. You will find, if you go into your insights, that some days are better than others. Like Instagram tells you when more of your followers are online. So you might want to start by picking those days and those times, and you can experiment with that a bit, but then people will get into the pattern of sort of looking for you and knowing you're online on those days. So that will help. I would say definitely repurpose content for the different platforms, but don't post them on the same day, because you know what people are like. They do the whole social media thing when they get, especially the younger generation, they get up in the morning, they'll scroll through Instagram, then they'll go to Facebook, then they'll go to LinkedIn. And if you posted the same thing, exactly the same thing, or the same content on all platforms, wherever they've gone first, they might engage with you, but they're not going to then engage with you again on LinkedIn, because they've already seen it on Instagram. They're not going to re-comment again. That's not to say a week later or 2 weeks later, you can't, if it's still relevant, to use that content on LinkedIn, because it's that reminder and that, 7 touch points of marketing reminder again on the same content. Just structure it ever so slightly differently, and again, use the different hashtags. So yeah, definitely repurpose it, but don't post it the same day at the same time, because you're just going to be competing with yourself.
Perfect, thank you. And obviously the completely different content is going to Instagram and, let's say, LinkedIn.
Yeah,
that's completely different.
Language might be slightly different depending on who you're talking to and how you phrase it.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
No props.
Yeah, can I also just ask a couple of questions? I have sort of covered some of them, but I just want to ask them again. So if you wanted to use your company name, as well as, putting, like I put sustainable brands and that type of thing, is it good to put your company name in so that it has more sort of totals at the end of it every time when people are looking, oh, you know, that hashtag has been used many times, is the first one. And then the other one is I'm going to be involved in a music event next year, which is, it's hopefully going to be a big event in Bristol. So we're about to start on all the platforms putting, you know, the pages together. And just, I wanted to know then on Instagram, how can I, because you said something earlier about if we use all these hashtags, we can get more followers. Can you just tell me that again?
Okay, so first of all, using your brand company name is particularly good in long form posts and where you can use a lot of hashtags, because on Instagram, for example, what I do is I always do my caption and then I'll use a branded hashtag. I'll try and share it back. Hang on, where is it? So you can see. Mostly so that if someone's reading a long form post and it's not clear to them or they've forgotten who they're looking at, it's like, oh yeah, it's purple dog. So I use that as my branded hashtag. Can you see that? Sorry.
No, but I'll believe you.
Yeah, let's try again. Audience window. Is that working?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yeah, I can see all that. You just can't see where it says purple dog.
So here.
Oh, down there. Okay, there we go. Yes.
So at the end of my caption, I'll use a branded hashtag and then a bit of spacing and then put all my hashtags in. So I'll always use my branded hashtag on Instagram first as kind of like a reminder of who they're reading.
Yes.
So they know it's me, perhaps giving that value.
Right.
Whether I would use that in LinkedIn, I don't know. If it was an event or a conference or a particular like theme, like with the music, for example. So like with the New Forest Business Awards, it's a really good way of, if you tell people with the music, let me try and bring up. It's a really good way of people knowing to follow that particular hashtag. So let me just try and grab Instagram even and share that screen a minute. So if I put in here New Forest Biz Award, you can see immediately 256 posts.
Right.
So I can go in then. So if you're educating people what the hashtag is that you want people to use when talking about that music event, do you see what I mean? So it's not just the posts that New Forest Business Partnership have posted, although some of them will be. You can then see the posts that the attendees have posted, for example. Do you see what I mean? So then you get to see the conversation that's happening. And the same will be on Twitter. So am I logged in? So like if I use that same hashtag on Twitter and search, so that makes it easier for people to join in with the conversation and to follow what's happening.
Okay.
So it's a really, and you can see the top posts, the latest posts on Twitter. So you can see what are the most recent, the people that have been speaking about it, the photos that mention it, and so on. And you can on Twitter have, if you're on Twitter, you can really advanced search, and you can use tools like Hootsuite or TweetDeck to monitor those hashtags as well.
Okay.
That makes it easier. So I would advertise a specific one that people use when talking about it, and any people coming to the music event, ask them to use it to get that post talking, and then obviously then using the hashtags that are relevant perhaps to the individual music concerts or pieces.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
How easy is it to, what I struggle with is finding like niche hashtags.
Yeah.
So, and because my work's quite broad based, sometimes it's for textiles or wallpaper design, other times it's printmaking, and other times it's sort of painting and stuff. Is it, so, can you?
I would set yourself like a half hour every now and then to go, okay, so I'm going to search hashtags on printmaking on Instagram and see what accounts come up, what hashtags they're using in similar posts, what relevant hashtags, suggested hashtags also come up. Then I do all the other things you do, like illustration or watercolors. Start with the generic ones and then narrow it down. And yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole of spending ages then collecting them, which is why I say set a half-hour limit on it every now and then, because otherwise you'll be there all day.
Okay.
And if you're not, you know, there are places that will perhaps suggest hashtags as well. I've started to collect some, which I put in a guide, which will be relevant to some people. But because it has taken me ages to put it together, it's a cost. So I will add the link in here that people can go and have a look. And there is a coupon code for you guys as well, if you want to use it. And if you find that it's not relevant, there's no hashtags relevant to you, I'd quite appreciate some feedback so that I can perhaps go back in and add them and resend it to you. So there we go.
Thank you.
But that's what I would do.
Okay.
And that's what I do when I start with a new client. I'll look at the different, I'll go down that rabbit hole of searching.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And is it, do you recommend, like you've got Purple, your own branded hashtag, do you recommend that that's something that we should all have?
I think it helps to just create that brand awareness, and depending on what your brand does, it might be a phrase. So like I said with Nike, it's hashtag just do it, isn't it? So it might be your slogan depending on what it is, or you might have different hashtags for different things. So you might have a hashtag for different events. And if your event is likely to be very busy and on every year, then it's wise to add the year to the end as well. I'm getting distracted by Vicky's dog. So if you know it's going to be happening every year and you want people to be able to find, and it's a big event that's likely to use lots of hashtags, then perhaps add the, you know, or if you launch a certain product in a certain year and it's only available for a certain time, then perhaps add the year. But I don't think it hurts to have your own branded hashtag. It does mean that other people can use it, other people can claim it and use it, not perhaps as you want to, but at least you'll be able to see conversation around it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Also, just another one then on that, using your name, is it better to like be consistent? So for example, my company's a long name, Vida Promotions Limited. So would it be better to do Vida Promo, just Vida Promo Ltd, or like a shorter one?
A shorter one we give people to type, definitely, and they're more likely to use it, but it's got to have meaning. So Vida Promotion, or Vida Promo, if no one's using it, go and have a look and perhaps claim that as the one that you always use. But once you start it, always be consistent.
Right.
Because otherwise the point of the hashtag is then lost. You're not being able to organise the conversation, or people don't recognise it as being you. So definitely then be consistent. And like I've used on Instagram with emojis, because that's the fun side of the platform. So that's worked for me, but I wouldn't use that on, say, LinkedIn.
Yes.
So it just depends on, you know, but I wouldn't use hashtag purple dog on LinkedIn anyway. So I wouldn't use my own brand on, because I'm already posting and I, you know, people aren't necessarily searching in that way. So
yes,
and I'm not using so many.
Thank you.
So the hashtag brand name only on Instagram or Facebook?
Well, I only use it personally on Instagram at the end of a long caption.
Yeah.
Because it reminds people
but not on LinkedIn or Twitter.
I wouldn't use it on LinkedIn, because your etiquette sort of says you're using 1 to 3, and I wouldn't want to waste that one.
Yeah, because it's only two or three hashtags, so you don't want to.
I'd make it more relevant to what I'm talking about.
So, like for example, launching new products or what's going on in my business. That's a kind of good thing to put on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
As well.
So I would use
both
hashtags specific to either that product or where you're launching it. So location-based hashtags.
Got it.
I think. Are we done? Or have we got more questions?
Some good questions there.
Or do we want to see any examples of anything?
I was just going to suggest, why don't we do a bit of a live example? Does anybody want to use their own brand or have a look at some hashtags?
Yeah, I've done a few in the past, and I think I've certainly taken on board less is more. So I think I've fallen into that trap of using every available hashtag going almost. You think this is too much. I'm just looking ridiculous now. So I've learned a valuable lesson there today. Less is definitely more. So
which platform are you looking at, Chris?
I tend to use LinkedIn, and then I sort of put a couple of tags on Facebook occasionally. I haven't done much on Facebook. I must do something. And Instagram, I've sort of, it's not really us. So I've got an Instagram page, but rarely do I put anything on there. But I think I've got something to actually put on Facebook, so I must do that. That was from the New Forest Business Awards. So I used a couple of photographs there. So that's a today goal. I must do that.
So definitely use the hashtag relevant to the New Forest Business Awards.
Yeah.
And then I would say, because you are a particularly local business, I would use a local based hashtag because it's more relevant for you in terms of that, which wouldn't necessarily be the case for everyone.
So sort of New Forest or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, even New Forest in some ways is quite general, because what's the conversation about the New Forest? When I think New Forest, I think of ponies and I think of landscapes and I think of, do you see what I mean? So maybe you can make it New Forest podiatry, or, you know, podiatry Totten, or podiatry, do you see what I mean? So that you're narrowing it down a bit more.
Yeah, sure. No, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anyone else want to have a look at their own hashtags on a particular platform?
I think Anna said she would be interested. Did you, Anna?
Which platform, Anna? She's trying to feed a new baby, bless her.
Sorry, I'm feeding baby in the meantime. Yeah, Instagram, I'm quite, already long time with, and trying to get exposure as much as I can, but obviously that's more, it's not Unique Essence aromatherapy, just Unique Essence. And
spell it for me, because I will not remember. And
it's not easy name, isn't it? The brand name.
Yeah, what's
Unique Essence?
Unique Essence. Am I spelling it right?
Yes, 1 E. Yeah, that the first on the top. Yes.
Okay, so let's have a look.
So that's the first one, launching new product.
Yeah.
And you can have a look. Obviously, I already made mistake because I'm always doing that, the posting on Instagram and straight away on Facebook. So I will learn that I need to do separate.
Yeah.
Like with twice of work.
Yeah.
Time consuming.
So have you looked in, for example, these two? So if I click on these.
Yes.
So I would use hashtag grapefruit essential oil, for example, make it even more specific.
Instead of essential.
Well, as well as because
that's what I'm using. So that's
this grapefruit essential oil is even more and you can even use descriptive ones here like zesty and so on. But if you go in and have a look at some of the top performing essential oil posts, you might be able to that's a bad example, isn't it? That's why it takes forever. And I'm on a desktop, so it's not coming up with suggestions. But again, you can see I can follow that particular post. So let's have a look. So again, holistic well-being. That's all those kind of
well-being, natural.
Yeah, plant-based. Those kind of. Do you see what I mean? When you look at another post, you start getting inspiration for what you could use. So again, you could use holistic well-being, or how does the grapefruit
well-being
make you feel? So is it meant to help you boost your mood? So does it reduce stress?
Different one works differently.
So it's those kind of hashtags you can use as well to help you. So relaxing, calming. I know that's not what it is. It could be uplifting.
Awake.
Do you see what I mean? morning routine, maybe even you might want to put it in as your morning routine.
Okay.
Which are probably better than words like sign up and things like that, because sign up is a bit salesy, and I don't know anyone that's going to be looking to go on and sign up to more emails.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So trying to think about the things that people are searching for in that respect.
Instead of what I want to do for them.
Yeah. What are they searching for? Think about what your customer are searching for.
Yes, not that.
Yeah, because you can use in your action what you want them to do. At the end of your caption, what do you want them to do? Where do you want them to go? So I would use it in that way instead, and instead use the hashtags as how do you want to be found?
Yeah. Get you. And completely different for LinkedIn. Not
you would only use a couple, and you might use like a generic one like essential oils, and then you might use say morning routine, or
for this kind of post, launching new product, what hashtag you would use for LinkedIn? Because there's only two.
I would still use like some generic ones like aromatherapy, because that's the product that you're launching. So that's where people, and perhaps think of the industry, so like wellness or well-being, where people perhaps are talking on LinkedIn more now about mental health and mental health in the workplace, for example, because you're relating it then. So it might be mental health at work. So it's only kind of things then that are a bit more specific to LinkedIn, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Don't worry. Anyone else?
Could I just ask, using Instagram as an example, are there any statistics that say how many people follow or are more inclined to follow an Instagram account as opposed to how many are inclined to follow hashtags? Or is the thinking that most people follow a collection of both, if that makes sense?
I think most people are going to follow a collection of both. Okay. If I just followed hashtags, then I don't get to see, I might get to see some beautiful pictures, like in this case, say the New Forest, with some inspiration, but I'm not then kind of interacting with that particular post in a particular way. So I might follow it to find new people in that category, like this, or because it is beautiful, because it's a beautiful hashtag to follow and it's lifting your Instagram feed when you come in. But once I start looking at the people who are perhaps, you know, photos I'm drawn to, like this one, for example, I would then come on and then have a look at that particular person. And if I am interested in the beautiful pictures of the New Forest, and that's the reason I was drawn to this picture, like Sally Fear's photos, then if he is posting lots of pictures of the same thing, I'm more likely to follow him than the hashtag, because I'm likely to get more relevant posts. Whereas if we go back, you can then see that if I'm following this hashtag, I'll get all sorts of things, which I might not be looking, you know, I'm not following the hashtag New Forest for pictures of cars. So that's why I might not choose to then follow that specific hashtag. I might start it to get inspired and find new accounts, and then look at, you know, actually who am I following? More specific hashtags might help. So, or more like how I might want to feel, happy now, for example, or positivity posts, I might follow a hashtag to get new inspiration or be uplifted in my feed. Like these are quite uplifting photos, and I might not then follow that account because it's not necessarily relevant, but it's nice to see a mixture of different posts in my feed that are inspiring and uplifting. So like positivity or quotes or something. But I would think most people are looking to follow, and it is quite known that compared to say Facebook, people are happy to follow brands and businesses on Instagram than they are on Facebook. because they go more to Facebook to interact with their friends, and Instagram, they're more used to following brands and people. So again, you might follow a hashtag, you know, and not follow the individuals because it gives you something inspiring in your feed, but then, or because you're following it because it's related to your business, like New Forest Mark. And that's not to say that you'll see all the posts in your feed then, but it's easier for you to see those posts that then come up. So you can certainly go in and see, well, so if you're telling people to use a hashtag, then you ought to be at least following it, so you can see what conversation's going on around it. But yeah, I would say people use hashtags to discover people rather than just to see inspiring photos.
Okay, thank you.
Another question, just a little bit to the left or right, is if you're on Instagram and you start following like lots of people, you know, at the top there it says how many followers you've got and who you're following, is it good to follow like lots of people so that they can follow you back?
Follow people
or companies, or
follow people that you either inspire you, are relevant to your business, or you like the sort of content that they post that is useful to you.
So for example, so I do polo shirts and all that sort of stuff. So if I followed like a golf club because they would have golf days and that type of thing, would that be the type of people I should follow, and then hopefully they'll follow me back and see my products?
Only if you're then going to interact on their posts, because you can follow them, but if you're not then going to interact with them, you're not going to be visible all the time to them anyway. So you're better off then interacting on their posts occasionally. So if you're going to follow them, then follow them with the intention to engage with them, not necessarily to be salesy with them, but to engage with them. Some people will follow you back just because, but people should really follow people because they're interested in what that person's got to say, or they want to engage with them in some way, or they are inspired by what they do. But you won't necessarily get a follow back just because you follow someone. And don't, particularly on any social media platform, don't spend half an hour going through and looking at who you can follow, because they have blocks on them. You're likely to get chucked off. So only follow a maximum of like 10 accounts a day on any social media platform, because otherwise the platform thinks you're a robot looking to spam people, and so it chucks you off or blocks you. So be wary, really wary of that a bit.
A question from me, Rebecca. At the moment, I'm working on some new textile designs and wallpapers. And if I wanted to sort of try and make people aware of what I'm doing in that sort of niche market, have you got any suggestions for what I could use or what might be more effective?
So do you have any other sort of competitors or similar brands that perhaps do wallpapers, or?
They're probably a bit large for me, but yes, there are certain brands, yes.
So no one that is on Instagram that?
Yes, there's like Barnaby Gates, for example.
Am I spelling it right?
Yeah.
Is that right, Barnaby Gates?
Yes, yes.
So let's have a look. So they've got very branded hashtags. There's not a lot of posts on them, but they're very then specific. Let's see if I am spelling it right. Are they on Instagram?
I think so, yes.
I would be amazed if they weren't, given what they do. So you can then start to see what other people are using hashtag wise.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I spelt it right, because I'm not coming up with the account itself.
Perhaps they're not even on there.
It's amazing to think, and that's perhaps why the hashtag's working. So then another one like Farrow and Ball, for example. Yeah. So this is where I would then start, and you can actually look at perhaps Farrow and Ball, obviously you do have, and they've got it specific to.
Yes.
So then you can see where they've got particular, did they do wallpaper? They don't do that, it's mostly paint.
Mainly paint, yeah.
Yeah. So try and find some brands that, like you say, like Barnaby and Gates. Did I put the hashtag in? Gates. Doesn't seem to like it, does it?
No, they don't.
So they don't appear to be. I mean, you could go to their website and have a look.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would start by trying to find some brands that then use those kind of things. See what they're doing. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Oh, look, there we go. Barn by Gates. Is that right?
That's it. Yes.
See, I knew I'd get there eventually. That's the thing with searching. So that's not amazing, is it? Their Instagram handle, because it didn't come up in search.
No.
So what we need to do, she's got Vanessa Barnaby, which is fine, but she needs to put like either in home decor or to the side, she needs to put Barnaby and Gates.
Yes.
Somewhere, because that's what people are looking for.
Yeah.
So now you've got her, it's then looking at the sort of hashtags that they use. See, again, really specific scallops. Do you see what I mean? And she's got the colours, which, let's be honest, pink and green, unless you are an absolute fan of a certain colour, is going to be a little bit non-niche. But this wallpaper seems really popular. That seems to be something that, see what I mean? So, and then you can, like, where you've got, see, that's interesting. That's the hashtag they're using, but that's not what the
not
using.
Yeah.
So I would go and have a look at both those hashtags and see what other people are interacting with.
Okay.
And where you're perhaps talking about the production of your wallpapers and stuff, where people are clearly like, because you will have some some accounts that are all about renovation, doing up interior design. It might be that not necessarily go and follow them, but where they've got relevant wallpaper posts, you perhaps go in and comment on how gorgeous it is. Do you see what I mean? So it's getting your name known in that area.
Yeah.
And if they happen to follow you, then you might follow them back.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go and follow them. I'd look for those kind of, and again, like home decoration, and starting to look at those hashtags.
Yeah.
And using some of those renovation projects, home decoration, because that's relevant to your wallpaper, isn't it? And
yes,
selling
it is.
that.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
At the moment, where it's quite bespoke, it's likely to be someone coming to you for a commission and so on.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. So that's where you want those accounts like this, where they're clearly spending quite a lot of money and doing places up, and it's all prim and proper and nice.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Brilliant. Well, another great session, Rebecca. Thank you so much. Really useful. We've all learned something, I'm sure. And what's the next topic going to be on that you're going to be doing?
Instagram carousels.
Fantastic. And
you might notice your Instagram feed engagement dropping. It's perhaps how to use Instagram carousels to get more engagement.
So we'll look forward to that one. More details about that on our website. And obviously we'll be promoting it on our socials, as I know Rebecca will. So thank you so much, everybody, for turning up today. I hope it was valuable. The recording will be on the website in a day or so, once we've downloaded it, uploaded it, and Rob's tagged it in the back end of the website. I know he's busy with a client meeting today, but bear with us and it'll be up there, because I know that you'll probably want to go back and rewatch this, because there's a lot of information in there. So thank you very much, Rebecca, and look forward to seeing you soon.
See you soon. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you. That was great. Bye, everybody.